IC 7523 is not legislation. It is not unambiguous. And in many cases, it's not very well understood by CRA auditors themselves. And so that means whenever you're going through this calculation on behalf of a school, or if you're ever involved as a school in a CRA audit, you need to go into that audit with your people on your side, your auditor, your records, and don't let CRA steamroll over you, because in many cases the auditor that you're going to get doesn't understand 7523 as well as you do. So there are a number of different components in the calculation that schools need to look at when getting ready to crunch the numbers. School need to take a look at its secular versus religious curriculum and how one determines what proportion is secular, what proportion is religious, could be of importance. One needs to have very good handle on your student population data. Remember, the calculation, depending on what interpretation you give to 7523, could very well be looking at, over the course of a tax or calendar year, could in fact be looking at two different academic years. For instance, the 2010 school year will have the 09-10 academic year and the 10-11 academic year. That could very well impact on the calculations. School expense base. Pretty much every one of our clients, and I dare say most schools, are probably operating a financial accounting package like QuickBooks or like Simply Accounting. Maybe your school has more of a legacy system in place. I know some of our clients are still operating DOS-based systems. Whatever system you're using doesn't matter, but you need to have a good handle on your expense base, know what expenses can be included in the calculation, why you need to consider your expenses to begin with, which expenses cannot be included in the calculation. Non-parent income. Non-parent income forms a portion of the calculation. If your school, if your faith-based organization accepts donations, and most probably do, then you need to know what donations qualify for inclusion in the calculation, what donations do not qualify for inclusion. And student tuition payments. Clearly, the whole objective of the calculation is to determine how much of paid tuition can be received. So again, it means having a very good handle on who's paid tuition on behalf of what students, and we'll get into some more details. But at the 10,000-foot level, these are the 5 components that all go together to give you that answer. There we go. Done. Thank you. Okay. By the way, I didn't mention this at the beginning. You'll see on every slide our website at the bottom. PDF versions of these slides are available from our website. So by all means, navigate there. You can click and the PDF will open up. It's on the presentations tab, I believe. And we also have videos on our demo tab at our website. So by all means, check it out. All right, so I'd like to deal with those 5 elements one by one. So secular and religious curriculum. We have one client who, and again, there are a number of different ways of dealing with this. We have one client who defines their curriculum on a weekly basis and has a total number of hours during the week of education time. And they split the time between so many hours secular, so many hours religious. And if I click on that, this one's not going to the internet, so hopefully this will open up faster. Some simple spreadsheet just like that, which has grades 1 to 5, grades 6 to 8, religious, secular, religious, secular. And they come up with a percentage split, and average secular percentage. It's a pretty straightforward spreadsheet. So that's how one client does it. There are a number of different ways of dealing with it, but that's certainly one thing that needs to be taken into consideration. But the question remains, you have to base that calculation on something. If CRA comes in and performs an audit, and by the way, I've been involved in CRA audits both on the school side and on the side of a parent recipient of a receipt, and CRA pulled them in for an audit and looked at every one of their receipts, including the ones from the schools. So regardless of how they call you on it, there needs to be some hard and fast data, which is why having a spreadsheet like that, having the principal or whoever heads up the curricular side of the school sign off on it is worth its weight in gold. An auditor is not going to come in with a stopwatch and is going to check, okay, we got 18 and a half hours religious, 17 and a half hours secular. They're not going to do that. But as long as there is a track record of that paper signed off in your records, you should be okay. So again, you shouldn't base it on conjecture. You should probably base it more on your curriculum and on your schedule. So if you can pull out from your schedule, your weekly schedule of all your courses, and if an auditor in 15 minutes of work can total up the hours, and the hours look pretty close to what you have on your spreadsheet, chances are you're going to be okay. Something else that needs to be taken into consideration, are you going to be looking at grade-specific splits, or are you going to be looking at just the entire school? So, for example, are you going to say that every single student in the school, their secular to religious split is 35-65? Doesn't matter what. Or are you going to look at it on a grade-specific percentage basis and say, well, students in grade 5 have 85% religious, students in grade 2 have 65% religious. And that will also bear into how you move forward with the calculation. And we have clients who do both, by the way. How to deal with 2 separate academic years. I mentioned that earlier. That's more of I have it here as a question, but it's really a statement. When you perform the calculation, you need to keep that in mind. If your calculation is going to be based on 2 separate academic years, then that needs to be taken into consideration, especially if you're doing a grade-specific split. Those splits could change year over year. Now, they probably will not vary widely from one year to the next, but you may make a change one year in your curriculum, and that may impact over those 2 years, so that needs to be handled by the calculation. These last 2 points are really going back to what I said earlier about the CRA audit. If it's reasonable, if it's defendable, you're going to be okay in an audit. If it looks like you're doing one of these, or if you're receding at 100%, that's when you're on shaky ground. So always keep those 2 points in mind. So that's the secular religious issues that need to be considered. Yes?
So in terms of the division between secular and religious, is it acceptable to take a course and say, well, there's, say, math course even, that there's 10 minutes in a period that's religious content?
Excellent question, thank you. The answer to the question is yes. And I'll extend it a little bit even further. We have some clients in the Jewish day school system. Now, those schools have part of their curriculum which teach in the Hebrew language. You won't see this written in IC 7523 anywhere, but auditors take CRA takes the opinion that anything, and this is specific to that, I'll get back to your question in a second, but this is specific to that environment. Anything taught in Hebrew is considered religious. So, for instance, if math is taught